For a lot of us, our ultimate dream is to make movies, but we often excuse ourselves because we don't have enough money, we don't have a big enough crew, we don't have enough time, and then we just end up not making our passion project. But I'm here to tell you that it is possible. It's not easy, but it is possible. And today I want to show you a little bit behind the scenes of my latest passion project, Unprofessional. Let's get into it.
Terry, did you get it?
Yeah, I've got it.
So before we jump into the pre-production, let me encourage you to at least watch the film. That will help you give a better context of what we're about to discuss. So a lot of people have been asking me, where did you get the idea of a phone in a wall? I was sitting in my office one day and I had this idea of like, what if you got an anonymous number from somebody randomly, but then you up the stakes a little bit. You say, well, what if that number wasn't just the cliche of having somebody breathing heavily on the other end of the line, this ominous voice, but what if the phone was actually stuck in your wall? That would be really interesting because as a viewer, I'm thinking, how did it get there? Why is it there? Who's on the other end of the line? And what are they about to tell our lead role or our main character? And what journey will that lead them down? And I felt that that component alone was so intriguing enough that it made for a good recipe for a short film and keeping the audience's attention. And from there, I just developed this character named Terry who loses his job, is desperate to find something, and then he's caught up with this sort of secret organization that he interacts with or gets introduced to through a phone in his wall. I know, sounds weird, but it works. And our actor, by the way, nailed the part. So after the idea, it was time to write the script. I jumped over using a tool called Studio Binder and wrote a 5 to 7 page short film. I got the script done and I knew the timing of it, I knew the character of it, I knew sort of what was involved and what it was gonna cost. And so at that point, I needed a crew. I didn't have the budget. I wanted to stay within $1,000, $1,500, and we stayed within that budget range for pretty much the whole production. And I didn't have enough to pay for a crew, but I thought, hey, if people are willing to get involved with this as a passion project, much like I am, that would be awesome. So I put together like a movie poster, if you will. And one of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of in my area, I submitted that and said, hey, I'm looking for a DP, a gaffer, a key grip, sound, first AD, etc. So I was looking for some crew that were willing to do this for free. And lo and behold, there were people kind enough and willing and eager to jump on this project. And the first person that really helped me was my DP, Bailey. We actually had a Zoom call to see if it was a good fit, and he felt like my style and what I was trying to go for matched his, and then we were off to the races. We assembled more of a crew, more of a team, and got all our gear together, and we were ready to shoot. So I think this is a good point of connecting with other people. One, you definitely want to make new relationships, but you also want to establish a relationship prior to just showing up on set, whether it's texting, calling, or having a Zoom or Google chat with somebody, just to figure out if you can jive with this person, if you have a similar personality or a style or an end goal that both of you want to achieve. So you're probably curious as to how big of a crew we had. So of course I was the director, then I had a DP, Bailey, I had a gaffer, a grip, a first AC, behind the scenes, sound, and a first AD as well. So we were like 6, 7, 8 people. And then the second day, I think we had a couple more. And then of course our lead role, our actor, who was played by Andrew Breedlove. And so we were a pretty good sized crew, at least to accomplish a small short film, but we needed everyone to make the vision come to life. So along the pre-production line of things, I had some reference images that I used from Shot Deck, from Frameset, some more specific shots to get the lighting, mood, style, the visual tone. And that's really important to do. If you ever work with a DP or a bigger size crew, you need to clarify the vision first to begin with, so that they come to set with a similar mindset or with a similar idea of what you want. Because you're the director, and the director doesn't do everything. They have to be really good at clarifying or communicating the vision. Because everyone there on set is basically there to accomplish the vision. They're there to help assist that vision. But if you're not able to communicate, or clarify that or show them what you mean or tell them what you want, then they can't do it. Their arms are virtually tied behind their back. I also had a shot list. So in the shot list, I had a time for how long it would take to shoot, a description of it, and then more of the scene references and the camera movement. So my first AD would take a look at that and say, okay, here's all the shots that we have to do. Can we do it in this time? Or we're running a little behind. Let's cross this shot out. Is there a way that we can still tell the movie, the short film, without having this shot in there? When you're investing into a passion project, you don't want to miss a shot. Done other short films where I've shot listed, where I would just kind of scribble some stuff down on a paper and like I want a wide, a medium close, just getting some coverage, things like that. But for this one, it was very particular, almost to a point where it's exactly how I want it in the final edit. And I feel like that's good if you really want to land the story well. Because in my experience shooting a short film, it's really easy to miss stuff. And if you miss stuff, then your story has these like kinks in it, or black holes, or dead ends, or missing parts that just don't really make a lot of sense. And you could spend all the time in thinking through continuity, but if you're missing a couple clips or a couple shots in your story, then it's not gonna make any sense. So it's really good to have a shot list. And it's a good exercise because the more you do in pre-production, the easier, not just the production, but the easier the post-production is gonna be, and your story will come together better. So a couple other things in the pre-production, I needed to figure out how I was gonna break through a wall without actually breaking the wall in the house that we did it in. And then secondly was the microwave, and then lastly was the snorri cam. So all of those were sort of a DIY mixture, which I love doing stuff like that. Obviously they take time, but they are a lot of fun. So the microwave was pretty simple. Was able to pick that up at Goodwill for like 20 bucks, sawed off the back of it, taped some cardboard around it so no one would cut themselves, and then we had ourselves a nice interior perspective POV shot of the microwave. Then moving on to the snorri cam was a little difficult. I could have bought one online, but instead I decided to make that, and I had two pieces of plywood that I bought some like straps and buckles, and basically mounted that to our talent. And then we had a baby pin mounted on the front of it. We screwed that and then mounted the camera. And I believe that was the red Komodo that we used on this particular shot, but I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted to tell a story that was right in the face of our character in this particular moment. With the wall, I actually tested that out beforehand, and I'm really glad I did that because I found out a few things I needed to do before shooting. I could have scrapped the microwave scene, I could have scrapped the snorri cam, but I couldn't have scrapped the hole in the wall. So that was really good to practice. And if it's integral to your story, you need to make sure that you can do it before you show up on the day of shooting. And action. The other thing I needed was a really good car, looking for an older car, like 1980s, 1990s, something like that, that would fit the character well. And I found just that, an old Toyota Celica, and I actually reached out onto a Facebook marketplace, Facebook group as well, looking for a car that would fit that. And I found a guy who was willing to let me use it, and I basically just paid him $50 a day to use his car. So it turned out really good, because I feel like a lot of times those set pieces are like other characters in your film. And because I had the interior radio shot that I needed, and I didn't want a modern looking radio with like a CD player or all these other headphone jacks and things, I just wanted it to look old. And this Toyota Celica worked perfectly. So the next thing we needed were locations, and I didn't have a big budget for that, so I had to go and find the right place that was pretty low key and would allow me to shoot there for free. So I spent the afternoon one Saturday with my family looking at different parking garages that had good sound, good lighting, and I found this one really good spot where it was an older parking garage, not a very busy area, and those are places that you want to find. They're like the gold mine, where no one's gonna care if you shoot there, but it's a really cool visual place. So the parking garage was free. I had to pay for the interior home scene, and I needed something that fit the aesthetic of our lead character, Terry. So I found an Airbnb that fit sort of the description. It was much smaller than I thought when I got there, but it fit the description of what I felt like our lead character could live in. So once the pre-production was pretty much squared away, it was time to shoot. And we scheduled 2 days of shooting this entire short film on a weekend, a Saturday and Sunday. And we started day one with our opening scene in the parking garage. And we had a small window of time while the sun was setting and also the way the shadows were in the parking garage. We only had about 2 hours to shoot that opening scene. And this was the first time we had all worked together. So everyone was sort of getting used to each other. In the end, we actually didn't finish that opening scene and we had to pick it up the next day. I think this goes to show you how you have to be flexible on set, and you just have to be flexible as a crew member, as a creator, to know that things don't always go as planned. So day one in the shooting, we didn't really have much lighting in the parking garage. We'd have a couple shots where we bounced the light on the talent's face, and then we had one shot on the radio where we pushed some light through on the side. So at the end of day one, we did all the exterior and interior car night scenes that our script called for. And we had a parking lot picked out. We started setting up, and in the first 10 minutes of setting up, we saw a security guard walking towards us. And my immediate thought was, oh no, we can't film here. So I went up to him, talked to him, tried to see if we could work something out, and it just didn't end up happening. And we all moved our gear and everything over to the parking lot next door, and it worked out great. So we got rolling with a couple of those shots. We used a couple LED bars to mimic police sirens. We had a nice dolly shot after our lead flipped over the hood of the car and how he sort of moves into the car. We were following and tracking him. And then the last shot is a dolly out. And everything was really just kind of smooth with that. And we had a light that we set up, our main key light, about 20 feet in the air, and that turned out really nicely. Then we did one last wide shot of him just running in the parking lot, and that turned out really funny. I think what people look over a lot of times in the YouTube space is getting really good actors. You can have a really good script, you can have really good gear, but if you don't have good talent to perform, it really shows. And I was grateful enough to have Andrew Breedlove, who just nailed this part, did so well. I was actually friends with him in college. I flew him out from Michigan to Colorado to shoot this part, and he nailed every single performance. It was so good. He took my feedback, he made it better, and he did more than what I could actually think possible with this character, Terry. And I'm literally hats off to this guy. And I think it goes to show you that there's so many parts to a film to make it good. You gotta have good gear, you gotta have a good script, you gotta have good crew, but you have to have good acting. And so to wrap up day one, now moving into day two, we had to pick up that scene in the opening scene of the parking garage and then shoot all the interior shots at Terry's home. Then after we wrapped up with that pickup scene in the parking garage, we moved over to our interior shots of the house. First was the montage shots. We had to get the microwave, the silverware, the TV dinner, the mail, throwing that on the kitchen table, all of that together. So we had a lot of shots, and we tried to move as quickly as possible to get those. In the kitchen scene, we had basically a light mat that we used to light our talent. And then we had a couple aperture MCs behind the talent, and then a couple LED bar lights motivating the light from the kitchen sink. And then moving over to the dolly shot wide, sort of a profile, we had a motivated moonlight or street light that was exterior of the house. But we, of course, were running out of time, and we had our big apex scene that we needed, and that was tearing through the wall. And so we set up this wide shot of him smashing through the wall. And when I saw it, we had 2 sheets of drywall that we could use. So we had 2 different takes, but we didn't have a whole lot of time. So it was really just a one-shot wonder. So we ended up smashing another hole in the wall by pushing the wall back a little bit. And what was really cool, I had planned to basically take a square version of the hole, tape that to the wall, and then mask it out in the end. But we ended up actually leaving the fake wall up there, and then the back wall, which was the real wall of the house, just looked like an accent wall. And the way the corners met and the way the camera was positioned just made it look like this seamless wall. And I was not expecting that at all, but it turned out great. And because it saved a lot of time, we just went ahead and went with it. So at the end of day 2, really, that was a wrap. We had everything we needed, and it was time to get to the edit. And so I feel like this video is comprehensive enough to show you a little bit of how we produced the film Unprofessional. And I think what I'd encourage you to do is, this film and the production really only cost $1,500 to make, from the production design, the wardrobe, to flying out our actor, all of that stuff. And I was gracious enough to have people who volunteered. And that's what you need, really good friends or people that are willing to volunteer to help make this possible, because I couldn't have done it without them. And so I would encourage you, if you have an idea for a short film, even if it's just you may not need a big group of people and a lot of gear. You just want to go tell some good stories. The whole point of this breakdown is to show you that it's possible and to show you how it was all made. And I would encourage you to go shoot your film. But I'd love to hear from you. What comments or parts of the story would you like to know more about? Would you want to see more short films and more short film breakdowns? But I think that's about it for me. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one. But the best thing you can do is fail. The worst thing you can do is fail.